nothing worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting. Live from a sold-out Comerica Theater in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, it is the Nothing Worthwhile, the Stallone Awards, celebrating all things Sylvester Stallone. Starring Andrew Gruthius, with special guest from the worst of the best podcast, Ryan Rebalkin. Musical guest, Survivor, and hosted by Evan Moody. This is serious deep voice announcer saying, ladies and gentlemen, the Stallone Awards.
Rocky, do you believe that America is the land of opportunity?
Yeah. The world meets nobody halfway. Do you understand what that means? If you want it, Mike, you gotta take it.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years. In 6 years, you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I want to know how come.
You want to know?
I want to know how.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
It's a living?
It's a waste of life.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits. Cowards do that, and that ain't you!
It's over, Johnny. It's over!
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off! It wasn't my war! You asked me, I didn't ask you! And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win!
You know, there's only 3 steps into that ring. Just 3. And tonight it's gonna look as high as a mountain. And when you climb through them ropes, it's gonna be the loneliest place in the world, because you're gonna be in there with another fighter who wants to take you out. So now you gotta ask yourself, are you here to prove something to other people? Or prove something to yourself? You said to the kid, it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
I don't want a confession. Set me up. You set everything up. I'm talking about Chick Weber. Tools. Cops. Great with us. Dolls. Killing every kid.
If I can change,
Я думаю, что каждый тоже изменится.
then you can change.
Вы можете измениться.
Everybody can change!
I want your badge, I want your weapon, I want your ass. Who the fuck do you think you are?
He thinks he's Rambo.
Rambo is a pussy.
What do you know about that? Oh, Harry here's a soldier. Rambo. John Jay?
You let me go and I'll pretend this never happened. You don't, and I'll burn this fucking place to the ground on my way out.
You're finished! You've gone as far as you're gonna go!
Come on, both with your hands in the air!
Showtime.
I didn't come here to rescue Rambo from you. I came here to rescue you from him.
You know almost every sicko in this city. Do what you do best.
This is where the law stops. And I start.
We are the future!
No! Your history. Boom.
Welcome to Gateway, Leone.
I just want to say one thing to my wife who's home. Yo, Adrian! I did it!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 274th annual Nothing Worthwhile Stallonies. And now, please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, the host of Nothing Worthwhile, Evan Moody.
Wow, look at this. Thank you, Mr. Serious Deep Voice Announcer. We are coming to you live from a sold-out Comerica Theater in downtown Phoenix, Arizona for the Stallone Awards. We are here celebrating all things Sylvester Stallone. Before we get to our esteemed panel of judges, please let me get to my oh-so-important host monologue. Have you guys seen in the papers about this COVID-19? It has knocked out more people than the Rocky franchise. All right, listen, guys, I would love to go on with my monologue, but I got stuff in the basement. Let us say hello to the many Stallone-related luminaries in the audience. Look, it's Alan Cummings from Get Carter and Armando Asante from Assassins. Hi, fellas. Hey, these guys are sitting awfully close to each other. Alan is now sitting on Armando's lap, and now they are open-mouthed kissing. All right, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let us say hello to Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies. Hi, Carl. High five me, Carl, with your left hand. Wait. Okay. Right hand. Okay, I guess that Happy Gilmore stuff is really true. Look, everyone, it is Burgess Meredith. Mickey. Hello, Mr. Meredith. I got to tell you, Mr. Meredith looks a little pale. Hold on. I have a PA talking to me in my headphones. I've been informed that Mr. Meredith has been dead since 1997. That would explain it. Can someone please pick up his lips and eyelids off the floor? Look how beautiful she looks. It's Talia Shire, Adrian from the Rocky movies. Miss Shire, you look stunning tonight. Well, hashtag me too. Okay, I will move on. It's Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, Thunderlips, and the devastating Clubber Lang from Rocky 3. You guys have aged a bit since 1982, not quite as imposing. Hulkster, you remember Groo and me? We met you back at WrestleMania 33. What's that, Hulk? You want to welcome us to the Silver Dome? No, we're in Arizona. And Hulk, please do not say anything racist. Mr. T, hello, sir. I know, you pity the fool. And now Mr. T is trying to do a pull-up and struggling. Mr. T, could someone grab his feet and help him? All right, let's move on to the very special VIP section. It is Robert De Niro from Copland and grudge match with good friend Harvey Keitel from Copland. Hi, fellas. Bobby D, I am such a big fan. Listen, do you need to borrow a few dollars? I heard your divorce is quite expensive. What was that, Mr. De Niro? Oh, go fuck myself. Okay, let me move on to Mr. Keitel. Mr. Keitel, how are you? What is that? Oh, is Groo available in December for the filming of Little Nicky 2? I will certainly pass that along to him. Oh, and that is your lovely wife, Mrs. Keitel. Oh, hi, Mrs. Keitel. What? Tell Groo to go fuck himself. Oh, okay. Well, let's get to these award show. First, let me introduce from our esteemed panel of judges from the Worst of the Best podcast and the Sylvester Stallone fan podcast, Mr. Ryan Rebalkin. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. Wow, that was quite the opening number. This is a fantastic evening, really.
Well, thank you. We are so glad that you could be here and look forward to your picks. And, of course, from the Nothing Worthwhile podcast, my partner in crime, Groo, Andrew Gruthius. Groo, excited to be here at the Stallone Awards.
Yeah. Wait, what? Yeah. Oh, yes. Hi. What?
Why do you just bail? We worked hard on this.
Yes, we've been looking forward to this for a while. We've been working very hard on it, too.
Wow, your enthusiasm is electric. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to the awards. Our first award is, do we get to win this time the greatest Stallone adversary or villain? Let's go first to Mr. Ryan Rebalkin. Ryan, do we get to win this time the greatest Stallone adversary or villain in a Stallone movie? The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm really excited to go over these awards and the reasons why we've picked what we've picked. I will do a little disclaimer here for the future picks that we do, at least from my end of things, because anything pre-Rocky is just probably horrible. Okay, so I think it goes without saying that Party at Kitty and Studs would take most of the worst awards right away.
Crap. All right.
But I only say that because once Stallone became a star because of Rocky, I think that was a criteria that I used when his career really kind of took off from Rocky. And I will say that I had to do a divide up between the Rocky films and the non-Rocky films for a couple of these categories, not for all of them. Okay, so for example, the greatest adversary that Sylvester Stallone has ever faced on screen, yes, it goes without saying that Drago is probably the greatest adversary he's ever faced on screen. Drago himself was almost cartoonishly big. He was over the top. He killed his best friend. I mean, this was an adversary of adversaries for the Rocky character, especially for an 80s movie. It's the one that Dolph Lundgren will be known for the rest of his life. But if you were to go outside of the Rocky franchise, I would say his greatest adversary and his most fun adversary, and the one that he had the most fun playing against, was 1993's Demolition Man, Simon Phoenix. Yeah. So.
Wow. Wesley Snipes as Simon Phoenix.
Yeah. And there's been some good ones, but I would say there's even a third one, but I don't want to overdo it here because Sylvester Stallone has had some really nice co-stars throughout his career. But I think Simon Phoenix is another great over-the-top character that demanded a sequel that we never saw, and maybe one day we will before they get too old, which they already kind of are. But anyways, there you go. So I'd say Drago for the Rocky films, absolutely for over-the-top, almost silliness or craziness, and Simon Phoenix from a non-Rocky film.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Groo, those did not come to my head, but Ryan made a lot of sense. Groo, the floor is yours. Do we get to win this time? Your choice for greatest Stallone adversary or villain.
Well, just to disclose, I did put all mine together, so these include the Rocky films. But same as Ryan, there is no pre-Rocky thing on any of mine. I did look at that list and was less than impressed. So, my greatest Stallone, do we get to win this time, adversary and or villain is Sheriff William Teasle, a.k.a. Brian Dennehy in First Blood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
Yes.
Any thoughts
this is my walk to the stage accepting the award. So, yes, this was... I've watched First Blood so many times, and I thought about a lot of the Rocky villains, but none of them, with the exception of like Clubber Lang and Drago, were really villainous. First Blood was like mano a mano. It was really Rambo versus Teasle. And Brian Dennehy was so good and he was so evil without even trying to be evil. I just felt their chemistry throughout, and they went from point A to point B with the relationship. My pick is, do we get to win this time? Sheriff Teasle from First Blood.
Ryan, what do you think of that choice?
Great choice. Yeah, absolutely. I had a hard time not picking things from the Rambo and Rocky, so I purposely steered away from those, not to take away from your choice, because it's a wonderful choice, and Teasle is one of the greatest characters I've ever put to film. Brian Dennehy knocked it out of the park, and I'm glad you chose it. I'm kind of glad we're picking from different parts of Sly's illustrious career. Absolutely, that is a worthy award. I totally agree with that pick.
I almost went, Drago was close. I think without Creed 2, Drago might be the pick. I feel like Drago kind of redeemed himself a little bit in Creed 2.
It's fair. So, his villainous turn.
Yeah.
They had a missed opportunity in Last Blood for Brian Dennehy's passing. He was still alive during the filming of Last Blood, of not reconciling his character the same way they did with Drago. To have Teasle come back, and maybe I wanted Last Blood to end with Rambo going to jail and having Teasdale visit him there and saying, "Here we are again," type thing. And it ends there type thing. But he's retired, let's say. He's an old guy. He visits John Rambo in jail.
I can't argue with that one.
Great.
Tell some kind of redemption story, like redeeming the character?
Well, forgiveness, yeah. That even though, you see one warrior locked up, truly locked up this time for what he did on the ranch. It's against the law to do what he did, even though it was revenge. He gets put in jail, and Teasle comes and visits him in jail and says, here we are. But they buried the hatchet. They still buried the hatchet. Their characters.
They're doing like a Netflix sitcom, I think. It's going to be Rambo and Teasle. It's going to be one of those things.
Let me ask you guys a question. No thoughts about Apollo Creed, greatest adversary. That came to my mind. I didn't pick it. Any thoughts on Apollo? Was he just too much of a nice quality guy? The character?
Well, adversary and or villain, he was a competitive adversary in the sense they competed in the ring, but Rocky had never had an ill will feeling towards him ever. Only saw him as an opponent in the ring, the same way if you play chess with somebody, you don't have to hate the person or even dislike the person you're playing chess with, but you're playing to win. I mean, Rocky was playing to win or do his best, but he only saw Apollo as a means to meet his own personal best, but it was never about Apollo.
I can't even add to that. That's my sentiments exactly. And they became really, really great friends. You would never call Apollo a villain. I really wanted to find somebody for this thing who was really a bad guy.
I wouldn't say he was possibly the greatest, but I remember really being moved by Donald Sutherland in Lock Up as the warden. Any thoughts on that character? Sutherland's role in Lock Up. I remember, man, that guy was one nasty bastard. Groo, I know you're a fan of that character and Donald Sutherland's portrayal.
Yes, and he was excellent. He might have been a tad over the top, no pun intended, but I think that was good for the movie. Donald Sutherland's, it was pure revenge. He was getting revenge for what Stallone had, quote-unquote, done to him earlier. Teasle is just plain bad.
Real quick, on your point with Teasle, you didn't see it, though, mano a mano, but he had a whole police force, or at least couple of spare parts helping him out there. I mean, I never really saw it as...
But it was his war. That's the thing. Teasle could have said, all right, we're just letting him go. He'll get busted down the road, then we'll deal with it later. But he would not stop. Even as his people were getting picked off in the jungle, he wouldn't stop. Brian Dennehy's performance is just, it's a clinic in acting. He's phenomenal.
I think everybody made a great case for their choices. All right, let's go to the second award. It's the You Blew It! The most memorable co-star in a Stallone film. All right, Andrew Gruthius, your turn here first. Groo, your choice for the You Blew It Award, most memorable co-star in a Stallone film.
Sylvester Stallone's most memorable co-star, by far, leaps and bounds, is the great Port Washington living Burt Young from the Rocky franchise. That is my pick. So let's give a moment to Burt Young. Thank you. Thank you.
Yay,
Accepting
Young.
For Burt Young is me. Burt Young, I think, created the best relationship with and best on-screen chemistry throughout. It's an almost 50-year relationship at this point on screen that keeps evolving. My second choice would have been Talia Shire, but Paulie, their chemistry and the way they bounce off each other in every movie. Burt Young brings a different kind of anger to his character that is my pick as the best co-star for Sylvester Stallone.
Mr. Rebalkin, the floor is yours. The You Blew It Award, most memorable co-star in a Stallone film.
I love that title of this award because, of course, that's the memorable line from Copland by Robert De Niro when he's talking to Sheriff Heflin?
Yes. Yeah. I will say real quick, I remember on your Copland, you guys kept on referencing the go to lunch, and I remember laughing. Go to lunch.
I love that. Yeah, De Niro really chewed the scenery in Copland. And that was a memorable scene about the You Blew It. I love that scene. I stepped outside the Rocky universe on this one. I agree with Burt Young. That's an incredible pick. I mean, Burt Young and Sly as acting partners were incredible throughout that franchise. When we didn't have Paulie for the Creed franchise, he was missed, and that's a sign of good chemistry between the characters and actors. But I'm going to go with somebody who was such a great co-star to Sylvester Stallone that, in fact, that kind of showed you just how charismatic and good of an actor this guy is. Kind of overshadowed Sly's performance in his own movie, and that was Kurt Russell in Tango and Cash.
Ooh. Wow. Hot take. Hot Stallone take. That didn't come to my mind at all. The floor is yours, Ryan. Let's hear your pitch.
Accepting for Kurt Russell will be the great Canadian Ryan Rebalkin.
First off, I love Kurt Russell. His intensity, his acting, his humor, his blue steeled eyes, his big hair. I love Kurt Russell. His golden years in the Quentin Tarantino films and his Western film. Did you see that Western film he did?
Tombstone? Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, yes. No, I didn't see that. I thought you were talking about Tombstone, which is one of the best Westerns ever made, I think.
I'm disappointed for two things. Number one, I'm disappointed you haven't seen Bone Tomahawk. You guys have got to see that film. Seriously. It's been underrated films. Incredible film.
It was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
He had the same mustache for that as he did for the Hateful Eight.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's what he has, both mustaches for those films. So they were filmed at the same time. That being said, you're also kind of wrong by saying that Tombstone is one of the greatest Westerns. It is the greatest.
I mean,
it is the.
For me, it's always been between that and Unforgiven, but I always give the edge to Tombstone.
Unforgiven's incredible, but when it comes down, if both were in front of me and I had to watch one in 4K on my big screen TV, you're going to put in Tombstone.
All right, guys, this is the Stallonies, not the Westernies. All right, let's.
Sorry.
It's not 6 degrees of Sylvester Stallone.
You know what it is? It's that Young Guns. Ryan cannot let it go. It's just that Young Guns.
Love Young Guns.
By the way, listen to the Bon Jovi podcast. Gru goes, I've never even heard the soundtrack. But then, like Ryan, you talk it up, and I think Gru goes, just amazing array of music.
I never said that. I said Blaze of Glory is a great song.
Something like that.
I never said that.
Cheap Heat. I love that term, Cheap Heat. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Jerry Lawler.
Let's go back. Hold on. Let's go back to Ryan. Let's go back to his.
So Kurt Russell was barely trying, I think, sort of in this film. He naturally is this way. He's naturally charismatic. He's naturally very handsome, a good actor, a good comedic actor, a good drama actor, a good yeller. Everything that he does in Tango and Cash, and I love Sly. And this is what makes Kurt Russell so amazing is you kind of watch someone who's been in the business for a long time since he was a kid, and everyone's at different levels of acting ability. Kurt Russell just kind of schools Sly a little bit in that film. So no fault of Sly. Maybe it was the writing that he was given. He was given a different type of character. Yeah, so there you go. I think the best co-star that he's had outside the Rocky franchise is Kurt Russell. And I wish they did more together because they actually had a good chemistry.
I've heard sequel rumblings recently. Yeah. I also thought of that because he's so great, but I made my pick was Together. The chemistry. I love the movie. It's so bad, it's great. And I love it. And I've seen it a million times. But Sly's performance is overshadowed by Kurt Russell. And that's why I don't think they made the greatest of co-stars. Because the chemistry just wasn't there. Because Sly was still trying to sort of get into that more comedic and lighthearted stuff, and he wasn't quite there. He didn't quite deliver on that one. He tried.
Was Tango and Cash the movie where he called Rambo a pussy?
Yes.
Okay. Burt Young, when you said 50 years, that felt very powerful to me when you put a time frame on that. Although when I said co-star, I don't know why in my mind I pictured a one-off, meaning Burt Young, Talia Shire, they're in for the long haul or most of the long haul. Just my own thought when we came up with this category, co-star. I felt like it was a one-off to me. I don't have any reason why. Burt Young is phenomenal. When you said 50 years, wow, I mean, that really put some power to it. To get to Ryan's pick, I just feel like it's hurt because I never really thought of Tango and Cash on any kind of level as a quality Stallone movie.
Oh, it's not. I like it for what it is. I haven't seen as much as Groo has, that's for sure. I haven't.
Yeah, please, that's for sure.
If you're talking about a one-off, we all look at things differently. I think my pick might actually be, and you'll be surprised at this, because I thought they were great together, Tom Sizemore from Lockup. I think they really did have a great rapport in that one. Most of Stallone movies are Sylvester Stallone in. To give Ryan a lot of credit here, Tango and Cash is really one of his few Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell in this.
Right.
And it was really a two-hander. So I think his pick is a really good pick.
So I am the expert. Let's make that clear.
Well, of course he would never criticize you because that's just what, he's
Hey, we're only getting started. Wait a minute.
All right, well, let me give you, I want to throw just a mild choice that I put down. And so obviously when I thought about this, I thought about De Niro, but I felt like it was too easy of a choice. I have a lot of respect for Copland because I see it as Stallone's real one sort of legitimate, I'm going for an Academy kind of style movie. And
what about Grudge
any
Match?
Any thoughts on, okay, I got the floor now.
All right, relax.
Any thoughts on perhaps Sandra Bullock, Demolition Man? I felt like they had great chemistry, and the reason why it came to my mind was it kicked off a really phenomenal career for Sandra Bullock. I like Demolition Man. I think it's just a perfect, cheesy, sort of a Stallone comeback to the action genre. I feel I'm definitely not an expert like you two fellas, but I thought Bullock did a great job and kicked off a real massive career.
Yes, I totally agree with that pick regarding Sandra Bullock as a co-star. That's a good hot pick, actually. And in fact, Demolition Man is Sandra Bullock's greatest performance ever.
Whoa, that's a bold statement right there.
We got to hold on to that for another podcast. That's a real. Are you telling me her career went downhill from there? Sort of, in a sense.
It did for me. The cutest and least annoying in Demolition Man. Ever since then, she has done nothing for me.
Okay.
I thought Rob Schneider was cute and annoying in Demolition Man.
I love Rob Schneider. I love him.
Groo, any thoughts on Bullock?
Well, I definitely disagree that was the apex mountain of her career.
In terms of a Stallone co-star.
No, didn't even come to mind.
Okay.
Bridget Nielsen would be higher on that list as a female.
No,
I'm kidding.
Please.
But I didn't even consider that. But there are reasons which I'll save.
It's such self.
He did the same thing. He did the same thing, and you didn't yell at him.
He's got credibility. You have none. All right, let's move on.
Fair
All right. We are going to the aforementioned for the worst. We have the honorary The Rebalkin, the most overrated Stallone movie, or maybe the worst of the best, so to speak. So it is the Rebalkin, and actually, Ryan, will go to you. The Rebalkin, most overrated Stallone movie. The floor, my friend, is yours.
This one's tough. Because this is going to anger a lot of people, but that's what makes it overrated. So overrated, correct me if I'm wrong, is something that is considered by most people an enjoyable film, a fun film, one that could be easily rewatched and no complaints by the general audience, something that's enjoyed overall by a lot of people. Let's go first to the Rocky franchise. This is not really that much of a hot take, but it is and it isn't. The most overrated Rocky film, as a side note, is Rocky IV.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's the most overrated. Now,
Agreed.
That's what this award is. That gives you an idea of where I'm going with my pick, okay? Now, is it fun? Is it cheesy? It's all the things we know that Rocky IV is. But when it comes to being overrated, it's overrated. It's not as great as people say it is, if you look at it objectively. So keeping that in mind, the most overrated Sylvester Stallone film, by far, is Cobra.
Ooh.
I know. And... yeah, it's...
Wait. Accepting for Cobra.
Oh.
The host of the Best of the Worst podcast, the great Ryan Rebalkin.
Actually, it's the worst of the best podcast. Leave that faux pas in there.
What did I say?
I will say this. Groo and I pick on Cobra all the time. Ryan, go ahead. Let's hear your thoughts. I love the choice. Let's hear your thoughts on why you picked it.
Because... my second pick that was pretty close was actually going to be Over the Top, but Over the Top doesn't try. Listen, but Over the Top doesn't really try to pretend to be something that it's not. It is what it is. It's an arm wrestling movie. It has arm wrestling. It has a cast of characters. It's kind of like, okay, it is what it is. But Cobra is almost talked about reverently amongst even Stallone fans. And I watched this film Sly's portrayal of this tough guy wearing sunglasses and a toothpick and these tight jeans, and his name is Cobretti, and so
we pick on that name all the time.
Marion Cobretti.
Yes.
We have this weird satanic axe-wielding cult, and it's filmed really horribly. It's blurry, and it's dark, and it's grungy, and it's all very not well done. It's a not well done film. The film was not put together very well. It isn't. The one great line is, you're the disease, I'm the cure. That's a great line, sure.
Which is on the poster.
That's the one great moment, is that sequence in the store. I think that's the highlight of the film, and that's your highlight. Maybe the car chase, sure, it's fun. But that's what makes it overrated. I don't think it's as great as people. I watch or listen to what people say about it. Then you watch the film, I'm like, no, that's not what's happening here. That's the most overrated film is Cobra.
Do I talk now? Give my award now, and then we talk about both.
I guess now you might as well talk now. I was going to try to throw it to you and have some kind of format, but I mean, this is ridiculous. We're in a sold-out Comerica Theater in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. 3,500 people in the audience.
And nobody's wearing masks.
You know what, Ryan? Please don't throw your little sly political element into it.
He said sly.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Go ahead. I mean, he's Kanye West interrupting Taylor Swift or whatever.
Well, then call this a campaign speech. So I'm surprised because you were going to say that Over the Top is overrated. People hate that movie.
It's not a good movie.
I don't think it's overrated at all.
It's not a good movie, period.
I didn't say that.
A lot of the Sly fans that I'm aware of love that film. I do. I think maybe well, I don't. Oh. But I don't think it's over. I don't think it's overrated. If you want to use the word overrated, I think it's unnecessarily highly rated.
Okay.
I just don't think it's. But I think Cobra, the spectrum between quality of film and the level of ratedness is Cobra to me.
Yeah, Cobra is definitely not a well-made movie, but to me, it's still entertaining as hell. I wouldn't have put it.
All right, thank
there.
you.
And did you know? Can I give a little tidbit of information though? Did you know that the director of Cobra is the same director of Tombstone?
Yeah, George P. Cosmatos.
Yeah, there you go. See, look at that, Evan. The late great George Pan Cosmatos directed Rambo 2 as well.
This is not some insider podcast.
All right.
George P. Cosmatos, like anyone gives a rat's ass.
Nobody does.
I want to get serious. Listen to what Ryan's saying. He makes his choice, though, but he lays out his criteria. He didn't like the way the film was shot. He didn't like the performance.
And that's why I pointed out the director. It makes
okay, but can you give us your choice for the Rebalkin?
Okay, my choice for the Rebalkin. As we know, the Rebalkin is the most overrated Sylvester Stallone movie ever. This one was easy for me. You guys will be very angry with me, but I'm going to say it anyway. It is called Demolition Man.
Get off the stage.
Accepting for Demolition Man is me. So, Demolition Man, I remember seeing this on opening day. I was so excited because it was finally like a Stallone movie that got really good reviews. It really did. You know, Stallone, Wesley Snipes was red hot at the time, coming off like Major League and I think the first Blade. So it was a huge pairing. And I remember just walking out really disappointed. It just didn't, I don't know. There was something about it that just, and Stallone gave a great performance. I have to give him that. He was good. If he was as good with his comedic timing in that movie was much better than it was in Tango and Cash or any comedy he had done at that point. But the movie itself is probably a well-made movie, but I just didn't like it. And it's very difficult for me to understand why. I've seen it twice, and I felt the same way the second time. And I know people love it, and that's why, to me, it's his most overrated movie.
I felt like Demolition Man was a very solid return to action. We say it's not Shakespeare, but I thought Wesley Snipes made a Bullock, Rob Schneider. I thought there was some cleverness to the movie. Taco Bell, the seashells. I liked the sort of sci-fi connection with the cryogenic freezing of the characters and future. It's not the best. I remember at that point watching it being like Stallone's back in terms of action. That's where I stand with Demolition Man.
I can see why you would pick that. It doesn't surprise me, but I understand your picks, your reasons. They're sound. It's not a movie that I go to the well very often with. It doesn't age very well. It hasn't aged very well through no fault of its own because of special effects. I think had they made that movie in today's special effects with the actors being the same age they are then now, it would have been an interesting film. I think they could have really done a lot of fun stuff with that film. Unfortunately, it was just made at a time when it just doesn't age very well. Like a film like First Blood, it's ageless because there's no special effects required, right? It's just you're filming in the woods. That's why movies like Westerns are great. Sort of go off topic because they don't age. They don't have to.
Yeah, they were dated when they came out. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there are some movies in Sly's career, and we'll get to one of them, where the technology during the filming really hampers the aging process. Yeah. So Demolition Man, when it came out, it was fun. It was pretty solid for special effects. Overrated? I think it's fairly rated amongst most critics and fans. So it is an interesting take, but yeah, one I don't agree with.
I think, Ryan, you talked early on. For me, it's Rocky IV. Never liked Rocky IV. As I said before, I stood up and cheered when Rocky wins. But I did put a second thing. I'm going to throw it out there. I know I'm going to get crushed, but I wanted to do it anyway to hear. I'm almost nervous to admit this, but I feel like for me also Rambo 2. Because I felt like First Blood was a real legitimate story. I feel like Rambo 2 was sort of that picture 80s excessive action movie. The very over-the-top characters, the foreigners, the Russian, the shooting with all the casings on the floor. It just, I felt like even when I saw it, I enjoy it. I love the deaths and all the action, but I felt like writing-wise, it's just same thing as Rocky IV. It's just, it takes a very sort of broad nationalistic topic, and it's just very somewhat lazy writing. And that's where I stand on it. I just want to throw it out there.
I've always said First Blood is Rocky 1, First Blood Part 2 is Rocky 4, and Rambo 3 is Rocky 5.
Okay, thank you. All right,
That's
so there's some
good.
legitimacy to what I thought about that film.
It's fair. It's fair.
Okay.
It's yeah. Every argument I hear regarding Rocky 4, the negative part of it, I always agree. They're right. The robot is silly. The montages, there's too many. The thin storyline, you bet. And then the arguments for it, totally agree. The great soundtrack, fun montage scenes when he's training, yelling Drago on top of the mountain, the over-the-top emphasis in Drago. It's one of those crazy films where it's just as infuriating as it is fun.
And see, that's why, Groo, I don't put Creed 2 at the same level as Creed, because I felt like it was lazy. They took a storyline, and I did it good. I've said it before. I enjoyed Creed 2. But comparative to Creed, which I thought was really, for the most part, really original and created almost a separate universe within the Rocky lore, Creed 2, it took something that was there. And again, bringing back the Ultimate War, it just took something. They did it well. I enjoyed it. And they fleshed out the characters a lot more. And that's for another time. Rocky 4, Rambo 2, I just felt like it was kind of lazy.
I agree with everything you say. You know my feelings about Rocky IV. I don't consider it really a Rocky movie because it's not made that way. Creed 2, you're right, but sort of them taking a previous story and sort of continuing it. But I got to tell you, what I loved most about Creed 2 is that I was fascinated by the character of Drago. I didn't think that was possible. I don't think it's a better movie than the first Creed, but I do love it. And I do think it gives Rocky IV just a little bit more validity than Rocky IV had before.
That I agree with.
And that's as far as I'll go on that.
All right, fellas, let's move on. We're going to go to Andrew Gruthius first for The Eye of the Tiger. I'm very interested to hear everyone's thoughts on this, and I have some myself. Groo will be presenting first for The Eye of the Tiger, the most underrated Stallone movie. Andrew Gruthius?
Pick for the most underrated Stallone movie. It was very close, almost a tie. I actually made a list of pros and cons, and it was almost a tie. But I have to give the edge to a movie called Lockup. And accepting for Lockup is me. Lockup, when I first saw it, I didn't think I was going to get anything from it. The reviews weren't good. But you know what? I was always a huge Sly fan, so I was going, and I remember walking out of that movie like, wow, that's one of the best action movies I've seen in a long time. And it was so exciting. It was a great character surrounded by great character actors, which made it even better. Tom Sizemore, Donald Sutherland, John Amos. It was well made, well directed. The music was great, and Sylvester Stallone was great. The story itself, preposterous, but it didn't matter because You really fell in love with all the characters. You were sort of all in it with them. They allowed Stallone to share the screen with these people and talk with them instead of just nonstop shoot 'em up action. So by the time you get to the ending, which is sort of an anticlimactic ending if you think about it, it still works because they've sort of built everything to where no matter what happened at the end, you were going to walk away satisfied, and you do. Lockup does not get enough respect, in my opinion, and I'll just, without saying anything about it, I'll give you the choice that was almost there, and that was Over the Top. I'm a big Over the Top fan, which you know. You know. Garbage. You've heard me talk about that.
That's garbage. So I'll give you Lockup. Over the Top, absolutely not. But let's throw it to Ryan. Ryan, let me get your thoughts first on Andrew's choice, and then let's hear your pick for The Eye of the Tiger, the most underrated Sylvester Stallone movie.
Well, before I give my thoughts about Andrew's pick, I'll just have to give my pick.
Go ahead.
Lockup.
Wow! Wow! This was virtual high five on that one.
Yeah. So I have to give my pick to discuss Andrew's reasons because I totally agree with everything he said. I'll just add a little bit to that. It's not only the most underrated Sylvester Stallone film, it's criminally underrated. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how little this film is discussed. It even has a score by Bill Conti, of all people. Stallone is acting is incredible in it. He's got a great co-star in Donald Sutherland, like we talked about. Who doesn't like good prison drama? Prison dramas, they're great films. The side characters in this film, this is where Stallone surrounded himself with good actors as side characters that did not overshadow Sylvester Stallone's presence, but they were great supporting characters. The problem with Copland, and I talked about this on my review on our show, was unfortunately Sly did an incredible job, and we'll maybe talk more about that later, but so did everyone else. Yeah. So did Ray Liotta. Are you kidding me? Even Michael Rappaport did a great job. I mean, that film, everyone brought their A game to that film.
Do you consider Copland a Stallone movie, or because of the full cast that it's Stallone in a movie?
That's a good argument, and that's, unfortunately, I think that was Stallone's demise of not getting the award. It was an ensemble piece. Which one do you pick?
Even like Robert Patrick was great in that movie.
Yes, they were all good. Even Peter Berg.
Yes.
Harvey Keitel.
Annabella Sciorra.
This movie is criminally underrated. I love it. It touches the heart. It does everything. Like you're saying, it has, I hate the term action, but it has intense scenes of violence. It has drama. It has good character development. It has characters that you lose through death. You mourn. And has there ever been a film, and will there ever be a film, where you cry because a car is getting destroyed?
Maybelline. Wait, the way the music came in at that point, yeah.
Because we know the car would have. We're not mourning a destroyed Mustang, but what we're mourning is what
the
these
work
guys,
that they did.
There's this incredible montage of putting this car together. The pretend drive they went on with that young inmate just all goes to crap when the terrible warden destroys the car in front of everyone after they built it. Just showing that no matter what they do in this prison, they will never find happiness. And there's a lot going on in that film, and it's criminally underrated. And it's aged well because it's a prison drama. It doesn't require CGI or anything. It's a prison drama that takes place in the late 80s.
And his character was not a violent character. Like, I thought the movie was going to be about a prison escape. He wasn't trying to escape. He only tried to escape when he was pushed over the line, but he was just trying to serve his time. And
we have seen this so many times with the reluctant action hero who's pushed into violence. We've seen that, and we saw that plenty of times before Lockup. Lockup is a better Stallone movie. I love everyone's reasoning behind it, but to sit there and say, well, he wasn't violent, and we've seen it a million times. Rambo, I mean, all these guys were reluctant.
Well, Rambo was a trained killer, though. That's the thing.
You know what I mean, Andy. Stop,
I do.
Getting into minutia. I'm talking about, you knew that.
I'm not allowed to disagree with him, ever.
I didn't say it. I'm just telling you to sit there and quantify the role because he's a reluctant We've seen it not even a million Stallone. And
what I meant was it surprised me. I thought it was going to be exactly that. He gets thrown in jail and he's making his way out. That's what the movie was supposed to be about. I was so surprised that it's actually more, like Ryan said, use the term, it's more of a prison drama than a balls to the wall action movie, which was what I was expecting. It surprised the hell out of me, and that's why it's as high up as it is. It took a lot of guts, I thought.
Balls.
And it was a box office bomb. It really did tank.
I like to put out, I don't know if you guys, again, I'm so nervous because you guys are huge Stallone fans, and I don't know if in a sense it's underrated or perhaps undervalued in the Stallone lore, but I put Rocky 3. Rocky 3, and again, maybe I'm wrong, it's almost seen as the turn down in the Rocky franchise. Stallone's really into his looks. He's 2% body fat. Everything is, he's running with shirt, no hair. He's got Apollo Creed. However, I actually loved the story. I loved the surprise with Mickey dying. I loved the whole notion of getting rich, getting famous, and losing that sort of that edge, that perhaps the struggle to get there. And I loved the whole thing about Mickey perhaps protecting Rocky the whole time, and him coming to terms with it, that Mickey loved him. The notion of you wake up every day thinking you're a winner, and then you hear just one thing, and maybe you're not a winner. Critically, they get a lot of derision over that, but I thought it was really, really great. And
I think you're right in a lot of ways. As a Rocky movie, I think to me, the only way Rocky 3 is overrated is when people say it's better than Rockies 1, 2, and I would say 6.
I don't know if overrated is the right word, but I definitely struggled with that too, because I don't know if it's overrated, but I know that it's seen perhaps negatively in the Rocky lore, and so
I bought
it, loved it from the opening scene with Paulie, with the video game, and I loved everything.
To me, in the only sense that it's overrated is when it's being compared to the other Rocky movies, and if casual fans, you ask, what's your favorite Rocky movie? They'll usually say either 3 or 4. The three of us in this room know that it's not even close. So I do agree with you as that. But as a movie on its own, it's a great movie. I really think it is.
Evan, you're saying that it's underrated.
And when I thought about it, Rocky 3 came to my mind, and I was always I'm very big on that movie and the twists, and the themes are really easy for even a guy like me to kind of grab onto. And
so with the category of underrated, I think it's a fair reasoning. In the discussion of the Rocky franchise, often people say, Rocky 5 is the worst, Rocky 1 or 4 is the best, Rocky 6 was a comeback from Rocky 5, and Rocky 3 never seems to have a discussion, right? I would argue it's more of the forgotten film. Some of the nuances are forgotten because it's so overshadowed by the Thunderlips fight and Mickey's death or whatever. But there's a lot or Clever Lang's pain and A Pity the Fool. So sometimes things get lost that are really great about that film. But I would say the most underrated Rocky film is actually Part 2, because Rocky 3 does have so much going on. It's often it's tough because I feel like both 2 and 3 are either underrated or overlooked. You can almost say both of those. They're very rarely discussed in a way that's very few people are arguing about those films. They're not polarizing films. People will have different feelings on them. Some people think Rocky 3 jumped the shark a little bit from Rocky 2, but for the most part, I like your reasoning though. I get it, but I've never heard it spoken that way before, but I like hearing a perspective outside of the nerdom that maybe I'm a part of, so that's good.
Do you think that Rocky Balboa could exist and be just as effective if it was a direct sequel to Rocky 2 and 3, 4, and 5 never existed?
Well, Sly himself said that Rocky 1 and then Rocky Balboa, is a direct sequel to Rocky 1, that you don't even need to. We don't need to know that he ever won the championship. It's irrelevant.
That's a good point.
They're just bookends to someone's career, that he went the distance as a 30-year-old and then he went the distance again as a 59-year-old. That's it. His intention with the Rocky Balboa movie to actually have a direct sequel to Rocky 1. That was Rocky Balboa. It doesn't get rid of all the events, of course. It's almost like you can watch Rocky 1 and you get, him and Adrian, oh, I love you. And then you could cut 30 years later and then you see the picture of Adrian on the desk and it's like, oh, she's passed. Oh boy, what's happened to this guy? It works as a really great direct sequel to Rocky 1.
I agree.
I'm very glad that they didn't sort of retcon, which a lot of franchises do, which I buy into it as well if I'm super into it, how the Terminator Dark Fate. But Rocky Balboa is a very, very wonderful, enjoyable film. Almost feels it has like an independent movie feel to it. It's smaller. It works for the time of Stallone's career. Things are starting to kind of calm down, and I thought it was just an absolute wonderful film. Yes, it could work as a bookend, but when I watched it, I kept the whole kind of universe in mind.
Yes, you did.
And when it was sort of a wonderful way to close. Really wonderful movie, and when I went to see it back in the day, it really super shocked me how much I really enjoyed Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. Agreed.
Andrew, let's turn down the lights. This is very solemn, very sincere. We are now going to go to our In Memoriam segment for here at the Stallonies.
Tonight, we pay tribute to those beloved characters that we've lost over the years.
I don't want to change. I like who I am. But you can't change what you really are. And you can forget all this money and stuff you got all around you, man, because it don't change a thing.
Quicker and easier. Yes, quick and easy is how you make a cake, or clean a toilet bowl, or shop by mail. But quick and easy is not how you run a multi-million-dollar business such as ours.
Damn hard day, isn't it? Tell me something. How did you know? I mean, who the hell told you?
You must be very proud. If you will come... Oh, no, you take me! What is it? What is happening?
Life.
Rambo, you're not expendable.
You don't seem to want to accept the fact that you're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. With a man who's the best. With guns, with knives, with his bare hands. A man who's been trained to ignore pain, ignore weather, to live off the land, to eat things and to make a billy goat puke. In Vietnam, his job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period. Win by attrition.
Yeah, come on! Want to hit on me? Come on! I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you. That's right, I'm not good enough to meet with Gazzo. Woo! That's what I think of Gazzo. Now you're a big shot fighter on the way up. You don't even throw a plum to your friend Paulie.
You were a champion, and you did what you were expected to do. And you did what I and everybody else thought you should do. And you want to tell me that those fights weren't real? That you were carried? Well, I don't believe it!
For God's sake, why don't you stand up and fight this guy hard like you done before? That was beautiful. But don't lay down in front of him like this. Get up, you son of a bitch. Because Mickey loves you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sylvester Stallone.
Sun shines all night, and maybe I'm crazy believing that stuff. But if this is it, well, it's not enough.
Oh, thank you, Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Wow, Sly on stage.
How did we get him?
I don't know.
God, that was a surprise. Thank you.
Frank Stallone wasn't available.
Yeah, I would have rather have Frank, but
or John
like Take
Parr.
Me Back or something.
Was it John Parr?
No,
was he the one who sang "Hearts on Fire"?
No, that was John Cafferty.
Oh, John Cafferty.
The Beaver Brown Band. Don't forget them. That's like saying Bruce without the E Street Band. Come on.
Well, speaking of Hearts on Fire, Andrew Gruthius, in all seriousness, shared his personal weight loss journey. We do have a Motivated by the Rocky film franchise, everybody. Yes. Andrew Gruthius has shared with us his personal weight loss journey, shot like an inspiring Rocky workout montage. Gruthius has shared with us the footage. So if you please take a look at your monitors. Let's take a look.
Will the people at home be able to see this, or just the people in the audience?
Yeah, I'm going to describe. It's theater of the mind. Please don't interrupt me. Thank you. He's unfreaking believable. Just like him, I work hard on this, and he just craps all over it. All right, let us take a look at your monitors. I'm going to describe for our podcast audience Groo's inspiring Rocky workout montage. All right, there's Groo. He's waking up. Okay, it's 11 a.m., a little late for a motivational training, but okay. All right, he gets up, a little stretch, and there's 1 can, 2 can, 3 cans of Coca-Cola later. He's outside. He's ready to start training. He's outside in the hot South Florida sun wearing oversized stretch and stained sweatpants. Oh, look, there he is, and he's off running through the streets of South Florida. Oh, look at that. Just like Rocky, he waves to the crew outside of his local Publix. Oh, wait, a Middle Eastern Uber driver just gave him the finger. Okay, listen, you got to run on the side. Oh, look, he's picking up the pace. He's running. Oh, now he's hunched over wheezing. Now he's laying flat down on the floor. Damn it, will somebody call an ambulance? And now he's smoking a Marlboro Red. Thank you, Groo. Thank you for sharing with us your motivational workout journey.
Thank you.
All right, let's get to
I have to say, hold on. I have to say that, yeah, thank you. Thank you all. I really appreciate that. It's been a very tough road, but I was working with Richard Simmons, and he really got me to where I needed to be. So
we had it. It was great. It went with the way we did it. Let's move on. But thank you very much for sharing with us your personal weight loss journey. Yeah. Rocky montage stuff.
Very short.
All right, let's get back to it. Groo, we'd like for you to present your stop, or I might shoot, the worst Stallone acting performance. Andrew, the floor is yours for stop, or I might shoot, worst Stallone acting performance.
My pick for the worst Sylvester Stallone acting performance is, some of you are not going to actually, Ryan might like this. It is Rocky 5. Yes, Rocky 5.
Interesting pick. Let's hear your...
I'll be accepting the award for Rocky 5. Now, in Rocky 5, the reason, it's very simple. I believe that he phoned it in, first, by choosing not to direct. Second, I think he made Rocky into a caricature. He was going way, and I know we keep using the phrase over the top. Well, he did it again because he's really playing up the brain damage, but at the same time, he's trying to be the Rocky from the first one. I want to say he's trying too hard, but I don't think he's trying enough. I think he thought that if he would overdo it, that would sell the idea of the brain damage and combined with the old Rocky, and it just didn't work. The fact that the script was not good either didn't help, but he lost the character. The character was nowhere present in the performance, and I hate to say it, but that's my pick. Worst performance by Sylvester Stallone is in Rocky 5.
Interesting. We'll send it over to Mr. Ryan Rebalkin. Ryan, certainly give your thoughts on Groo's pick, and let's hear your choice for the Stop or I Might Shoot award for worst Stallone acting performance.
Those are actually very, very solid points there, Andrew. And it was actually my first pick as far as it was the one that came to my head first, definitely inside the Rocky franchise. And the reason why it's not my pick, but the reason why it's such a valid pick is because I tried to grade this on what is expected and what do we get. With the Rocky character, we expect better from Sly. We've seen better for the first 4 films. You can like or not like certain films. Like, let's say, Part 4 has different feelings on the matter, but no one ever says this Sly's performance of Rocky is crap.
Right.
I've never heard that. They might say it's too many montages or too quick or not enough storyline, but no one says that Sly playing Rocky is horrible. So for something to happen, we understand that Sly was trying to portray brain damage. And I guess in his mind, at the age of how old was he then? 44 or whatever he was then, that he assumed brain damage was mental handicap behavior. And maybe it is. But the argument is it's still done poorly. And what we expect and what we got was such a huge difference that the Rocky 5 portrayal of Rocky, it's embarrassing. It's a character. It is a caricature of the Rocky character. It's like somebody impersonating Rocky poorly.
That's a great point.
So I agree with that pick totally, and I think you won't get any cheap heat with that one. That's a good pick. I went a little bit of a different route with the same criteria outside the Rocky franchise. With what did we see on screen, and what should we have expected on screen? Again, this is a movie, a product of its time. It was made when special effects weren't that great, though the set pieces of this film were quite good, and they took it seriously. We've seen Stallone do a good, angry, menacing type of performance with the Rambo character, for example, or just him as the Rocky character.
I believe I know where you're going to go with this.
I think so, too.
So, that being said, what we saw on screen, this is a character that in the comics is a very mean, angry, brutal character, and the casting of Sly to play Judge Dredd is great casting. It's a great casting choice, but the performance that Sylvester Stallone decided to take as a snarling judge, jury, executioner was horribly executed, and it was embarrassing. The trailers alone showed you this was going to be an embarrassing performance by Sylvester Stallone. I am the law. I mean, we know that he could have done better. I don't know if he's just phoning it in, if he thought it was a hammy project. What could have been a great, fun project, he should have performed with a snarly best. He was grittier, meaner as in Demolition Man shortly before than he was in Judge Dredd. So I don't know where that went. I don't know what the direction choice was. Maybe he was told to be that way. But his dial-in performance of a character that should have been angry, brutal, and mean really left me wanting. It's a horrible film in general. It's one that I don't go back to at all. It doesn't make for my worst pick because there's things about it, the other movie we'll get to. However, his performance in this film, what could have saved the film, had he done a better performance, the film wouldn't be so scourged as it is today. That's my pick for worst acting.
They even make fun of his acting in the movie. When Schneider goes, I am the law. They make fun of themselves. I guess they knew that they had a stinker.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And the outfit alone should have been oof.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Listening to both your picks, you both laid out your cases for it. Where I stand on Rocky V is I give it a little bit begrudging respect because they tried something different. It failed, but when I watched it, I was excited in terms of the trailer, the Don King lookalike, the brain damage storyline. I hated the whole Paulie with the trustee, and they just lost his money. Like, I just felt like that wasn't legit because even a quote-unquote dumb athlete like Rocky would have somebody with some protections. And then, he sort of goes back and right away the jacket and the top hat, and she's wearing the rimmed glasses. Like, that didn't really ring true to me. But I will give it some respect that they tried something different. Even some hip-hop song. They tried to kind of bring it a little bit more into the modern era. It failed. And I've said this to Groo. I give it some credit that they tried something different, and perhaps if mined differently. They tried, it failed, and so I give it a little bit begrudging credit. Judge Dredd, it's not good. I don't remember savaging it quite. It's not Demolition Man. But I know it's gotten a lot of criticism. But I remember going to see it and liking it enough, I suppose. I knew it wasn't great. But I did think, like you said, Stallone was a good choice for that character. I was not a fan of Judge Dredd or didn't read the comics, so I didn't know too much about it. I guess for me, I was looking like, obviously Stop or I Might Shoot. I was thinking in terms of that era. Rhinestone was a real dog performance for me. It's something I can't even watch. I don't know if you guys thoughts about that whole Rhinestone, Stop or I Might Shoot kind of era of Stallone.
I think with Stop or I Might Shoot, that would have almost been easy. There's some really bad moments in that film. I also added up to Sly wasn't that bad in
Yes, I do think he's a decent comedic actor, actually, because I think the other one, Groo, what was the one with the Italian gangster?
Oscar. And I thought he was hilarious in that.
I liked Oscar.
I like Oscar a lot.
I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
So I think Stallone has some comedic acting chops, so I do agree with that.
Yeah. He's got a good sense of humor. But that's what I'm getting at with the Judge Dredd pick is, with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, it was a comedy film, a comedic film.
Right.
Did all the jokes land? No. Was there some terrible moments in the film? Absolutely. Like him wearing the diaper sequence. Yeah, there's parts of the film that are terrible, but at least he's doing comedy. At least that's what we went there. But with Judge Dredd, we have a guy, his character is Judge, Jury, Executioner. He is a badass. And he's supposed to scare people, supposed to scare criminals. He's supposed to be no mercy. Like, he's almost like a human Terminator. We got Sly impersonating a badass. And it was just, anyways, yeah.
I mean, again, and Groo's mentioned this, would you consider it such a broad, kind of over-the-top performance? It's almost comical?
But they should have gone that route.
Okay.
That's the problem.
So it was a bad choice. And not very well executed. But going back to Rocky V, it was the only time where I've seen him, and I look at him and I'm like, he's being lazy here with his choices. He's not challenging himself. Ryan and I, and Evan and I, we've all talked about it. There's some great stuff in Rocky V.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find, but it's there. There's a good movie in there.
There is a lot of good movie in there.
But everything always, with every Rocky movie, hangs on the performance of Stallone as Rocky. So it crumbles under that because I think he just didn't try hard enough.
It's almost like he never really commits to that whole sort of brain injury storyline. It comes and goes when it works in sort of the plot of the film.
Yeah.
You know, when they started off and he's in the locker room in Russia, I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. Like, they're going to take it. And obviously the execution on it was very, very poor. And I think you guys laid out great reasons why, you know, you had your picks.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get to it. We'll go to Ryan first for our next award, the This Is Expendable Award for Worst Stallone Movie. We're going to lay it on the line here. Go to Ryan first, and then afterwards we're going to be treated to a live performance of Survivor, Eye of the Tiger. But before we get to that, Ryan, This Is Expendable, your choice for Worst Stallone Movie.
Yeah, this one was hard. I used the criteria of maybe what to expect, what could we have, and what did we get. With Judge Dredd, I kind of expected what we got, so it wasn't. I didn't walk away disappointed. I knew it was going to be a little bit silly, a little bit hammy, but I just thought his acting in that was not very well done. Interesting enough, in my pick for Worst Stallone Movie, his acting wasn't that bad. However, the movie itself, its direction, its writing, the cast of characters it was just a mishmash of confusing characters, underdeveloped storylines. I was confused a lot of the way through this. You can check out our review on our podcast feed regarding this film. We talk about all these points. That is the movie Driven. Driven is an embarrassing film. It is absolutely one of his last films in the early 2000s to make it to the theater. There were other direct-to-video ones that are almost just as bad. For example, I almost picked Avenged Angelo for worst acting and or worst picture of Sly. I don't know if you've seen Avenged Angelo or it's been a while. This is a movie.
Wasn't that one of his first direct video ones? Yeah. Anthony Quinn, right?
Anthony Quinn's in it. Madeline Stowe. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's gorgeous in that film, yeah. and that's why I could never. She is like seriously, Madeline Stowe in Avenged Angelo is just absolute treasure to look at, and she's great in it. So. And Sly himself is not bad in that film. It's just poorly directed, poorly written. But Driven was a major motion picture with a huge cast, and it's more recent than Days of Thunder, but it looks horrible. It's a horrible racing film. They don't even do the driving sequences very well. It's just everything about it is terrible. It's absolutely a terrible film. Except for Sly himself doesn't do a bad job acting in it, but his lines are terrible. The story that he finds himself in is a horrible film. It's his worst major release in the film that he's ever done.
What came out first, that or Get Carter?
Get Carter was 2000.
All right,
Get Carter was first.
Yeah, Driven was like his last one in the movie theater until I think Rocky Balboa.
Correct.
That's a very interesting pick. I've never seen it.
Driven?
I've never seen it.
You have to, just so you can experience the pain.
Oh, well, you know what? I do like pain, so I will see it. So my pick now?
Go ahead. I tried to interject, but you, again,
Well, you wanted commentary.
I understand. I'm trying to, we're trying to, have a nuance here. But, all right, Andrew, I'll try again. Interesting pick, Ryan. Groo, the floor is yours. The This Is Expendable Award, Worst Stallone Movie.
This one was easy. The worst Sylvester Stallone movie ever made is a more recent movie entitled Grudge Match. Look at Ryan. Ryan, he's upset. He's upset.
I'm not upset. I want to hear your reasons. Go ahead.
Talk about what could have been as opposed to what was.
Did you have these reasons before you heard my...
No. I mean, yes. 100%.
No,
I said this was the easiest one for me. I walked out of that movie so angry. And Evan and I have discussed this about other movies, about squandering opportunities. You have Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro. You have Rocky and Raging Bull. The best you can do is that. It was supposed to be a comedy. It wasn't funny. It was supposed to be a boxing movie. The boxing was just absolutely ridiculous. Not that we might have expected it to be, but you have the tools to make something really special. And talk about phoning it in. The performances, it's almost like they know that Stallone and De Niro are not going to deliver much, so they're focusing on Kevin Hart. And Kim Basinger was in it, but who would remember that? It was just so poorly done. I hate it when people squander opportunities. The advertising campaign was 10 times better than the movie. Remember the posters advertising a boxing match? They almost steal that from the Rocky II ads. I was so excited to see that. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I just expected what couldn't be delivered. I've only seen it once, and once is more than enough for that.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions, because I want to break down your choice.
Okay.
And I know this is maybe a dumb question. You had very high expectations for Grudge Match?
Yes, because they have Stallone and De Niro about two boxers.
You had really high expectations at that point in their careers. They're well into their 60s, maybe mid to late 60s?
It's not them I had the expectations of.
But answer my question.
It's the filmmakers.
You don't think it had a feeling of, just even when we talk about wrestling, a rematch that's 12 years later, that we knew that, it's going off name recognition, but we knew that they really couldn't pull it off in the ring. I felt like there was some laughs in Grudge Match. I mean, it was pretty much a fair introduction of Kevin Hart. Again, where they're doing the video game and they got the light. I got some laughs out of that. I don't disagree. I definitely left feeling disappointed, but I felt like they're in their 60s, maybe close to 70. How much could we? Yeah, how much could they pull it off per se? Even with the boxing, I was like, it's got to be kind of hammy.
What I was hoping it would be was a comedy about two aging boxers. It didn't even need to get them in the ring. I wanted the story. I wanted the chemistry. That's what I was hoping for. When you have these two icons, I compare it a little bit to Escape Plan because they didn't do nearly enough with pairing Stallone and Schwarzenegger in a movie that's not a big ensemble piece. It was okay, but they didn't do nearly enough. Here, they could have put anybody in those roles and it would have been the same. But you have the two most iconic boxing character actors ever. What they come up with is just trash. I wouldn't say it's the worst movie he's ever done. It's my least favorite.
Let me toss it to Ryan because I'm curious to hear Ryan's thoughts on Grudge Match.
He was giving me a look.
No.
Let him speak.
Watch Driven.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. I would be amazed if you'd rather watch Driven than Grudge Match on any given day if those two were presented to you. However, I understand your reasoning. I think when I went into this film, I didn't think it was going to be as funny as maybe you thought it was going to be. And that might have been your expectation, maybe hurting your experience. I knew it was going to be lighthearted, kind of a meta film. I went in full expecting it to be meta. And it's so meta that it's almost distracting. They both draw from their own careers as aging stars, as boxing characters in their own right. There's literal references to the Rocky franchise within the film. So it's like, what's going on here? Why is he acknowledging a Rocky movie when, so I guess the Rocky movies exist in this world type thing. But the guy who plays this character looks like Rocky, I guess, we had that weird moment. But that being said, I think it was just fun enough and innocent enough that it didn't bother me. I can see how it would upset people. I get why it didn't do well. But I think at the end of the day, it was a well-made film. It was not put together haphazardly. There were some good moments between Punisher and Robert De Niro character. I forget his name, Joe Barenthal or something like that.
I forgot.
Yeah, Barenthal, yeah.
Barenthal. He was great in it. Speaking of early introductions, so this was pre-Walking Dead, and or at least I think it was close to it around the time The Walking Dead he left the show there. So it was good to see him on the screen, and Kevin Hart. But when I saw this film, I didn't know who Kevin Hart was.
Right, me too.
I think there's enough fun to be had with this film. It wasn't knee-slapping funny, but I knew it wasn't going to be that. So I walked out thinking, it was lighthearted. It was a family drama, the same way that Parenthood, the movie Parenthood, is a comedy, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of something that's more of a drama, but it has comedy elements. I think maybe it was, what's the word I'm looking for? It might have been promoted poorly with the expectations.
Okay.
Well, they definitely pushed the boxing element. But let me get back to a couple of things Andy said.
Yeah.
Why I may not be on your Stallone levels, I do have some feedback.
Of course.
So you referenced Escape Plan also with Stallone and Schwarzenegger. I feel like if it was 15, 20 years ago, I would give credence to that comment. But these guys are, I hate to say it, at this point when they have that movie, they're not the top action guys anymore. And quite honestly, they may be even seen well past their prime. And if you said to me 15, 20 years ago, Stallone and Schwarzenegger, that's like a dream. Now with Escape Plan, I enjoyed Escape Plan. It's an escapist fair movie. 2 hours, I didn't think about my problems. Is it great? No. And I feel the same way about Grudge Match. I agree with Andy. Andy always sells expectation versus delivery when you talk about quantifying a movie. We've discussed Adam Sandler. He has a clear line of thinking, which I like. So in thinking about expectation and delivery, and again, you may hate this, Rocky IV. I just did not enjoy Rocky IV.
Wow.
Rocky IV to me, even worse than Rocky V, because my expectation was, Stallone was kind of out of the limelight and tempered. Rocky IV was right in the heat of it. I remember it's a that MTV montage. Just to me, it's filling up time. And I watch movies now. For example, there's an Charlize Theron, I don't even know the name, Old Guard on Netflix. They have like a 10-minute fight. And I'm like, they're just killing time here. It's just filling, these montages. So I guess for me, I put Rocky IV. Just my expectation was real high, and I felt like it didn't deliver. But I think all you guys laid out great reasons for your choices.
Those 10-minute street fights only worked in one movie ever. Which one was it, Evan? You guys should know this. Like just a 10-minute just beating the crap out of each other.
Was that Piper? And,
yes, thank you. They live. Yes, thank you.
But even that one was, it's over the top. It's almost a comedy routine. It's so ridiculously long that
it's legendary.
Yeah, it really it's is. John Carpenter. It's Piper. It's trying to be off-putting. It's trying to kind of be a unique
kill time,
kitschy look at science fiction, so to speak. But very underrated movie.
Did we get Ryan's worst movie?
Yeah, he said it was Driven.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We were going back and forth between that and Grudge Match. But another thing about
somebody better take their Ginkoba. I mean,
but another thing about Grudge Match, just that I just remembered, and that I was hoping it would be in the style of, because it had the same director as Tommy Boy.
Well, that should have told you something. That was that Dennis Dugan.
No, that was Peter Segal. Peter Segal.
Who?
Peter Segal.
That you should have known it. They're going to play it for almost like family comedy fare.
That's what I wanted. They had too much boxing. Like you said, they're too old for that.
I'm tired of Alan Arkin as the wisecracking senior in every. There was that magic movie. He's on that show, Rosencrantz, and on Netflix. He plays the same. Yeah, Kaminsky. He plays the same. And he's good, but I feel like he's gotten into parody. It's like, well, we need a wisecracking old white guy, Alan Arkin.
Well,
I mean, it's every movie.
Leslie Nielsen's dead, so you gotta get.
Hey, my phlebotomy is acting. It's the same, and he kind of does that.
You're
if anything,
right.
There, I was like, anyway. All right, let's get back to our final two awards. We're going to go to Mr. Andrew Guthius first. The Yo, Adrian, I did it. The Best Stallone Acting Performance. Groo, the floor is yours. Best Stallone Acting Performance.
The best Stallone acting performance of his entire career is in a little movie called Creed.
Interesting. Okay. Good choice.
Yes.
Lay out your case.
I saw Stallone do things as an actor in this movie that I didn't realize he was capable of. It was really the first time, I guess, he was allowed to be Rocky without worrying about anything else. He didn't write the script. He didn't direct it. He was acting, and he was able to focus on that and just the emotions that he was able to tap into. It was basically a continuation of his performance in Rocky Balboa, but this one took it a step further. An Academy Award nomination more than deserved. He really did deserve to win. I'm still annoyed that he didn't. This is the best acting performance I have ever seen him give. In Creed 2 as well, but I give Creed the edge. He took the character places that he never did before. Emotionally, physically. He just exploded off the screen. When he wasn't on screen, you couldn't wait for him to come back. You missed him. You're like, all right, let's get back to Rocky. That's why the Creed franchise is, a lot of people like the Creed movies better than a lot of the Rocky movies. Not me, because when Rocky's there, that's all I want. I really wasn't that interested in Adonis's whole backstory because of how great Stallone was in that movie. That's my pick, Creed.
Let me toss it over to our other esteemed judge, Mr. Ryan Rebalkin. Ryan, certainly you can give your thoughts on Andrew's pick, and of course your pick for the Yo, Adrian, I Did It, Best Stallone Acting Performance.
Very good points, very good pick. I totally agree with you. Talking about what did we expect and what did we get? This is where something works in Stallone's favor. We weren't expecting this kind of performance from Sylvester Stallone. In fact, I remember when Creed was announced, we talked about this in our podcast, and I agree with you that when Sly's not on the screen, it's a good film, sure, but when Sly's on the screen playing the Rocky character, it's an incredible film.
Yeah.
Because the character himself is incredible, and Sylvester Stallone's performance of Creed was something we haven't seen him do since my pick, of course, the original Rocky. But to go with your pick, though, just step back a little bit, is I agree that we got something I didn't think we were going to get or ever see again. And we saw it, and it made me so excited to be a Sylvester Stallone fan again. And again, the Golden Globe and the robbery of the Academy, it's almost out of a Sly film, or a Rocky film where he gets picked, but he doesn't win. Yeah. It's almost apropos. But that being said, with the Rocky film, it's his greatest performance because... But almost the same reason. They had no faith in this character. The studio, they had no faith in his acting. He was a bum as an actor, as they say. He was a nobody. And he showed the world what he has in him. And he's shown moments of this type of acting throughout his career since. We know Copland, we talked about. And some people might be screaming at their iPhones right now or their listening devices saying, why aren't you guys picking Copland? And I think the only thing working against Copland, we hinted at it, was... he's not overshadowed, but he's at least he's on par with everyone else that's great in that film. It's a great film with a great cast, and everyone's doing a great job. So it's just hard. It's hard just to say that he was the only one that's great. What makes Rocky what it is Sylvester Stallone's performance as Rocky. He carries that film. Everyone else did a great job, but he makes Rocky, his emotion, his scene on the bed there with Adrian before the fight, of course, was the greatest acting he's ever done. He talks about he wants to go the distance. I mean, it was done in one take. They only had one take. The whole story behind that was incredible. I would be remiss to say I got to pick something outside of the Rocky franchise when really Stallone playing the Rocky character in the original film, the closest ever been matched, was Creed Part 1. So I agree with your pick, but we got to give a shout out to the original performance of Sylvester Stallone in Rocky.
Nothing to argue.
It's really, you guys really great. I thought your comments were both great. Going with expectation to delivery, I'm a little bit more actually in Groo's camp because I think that Creed was definitely a departure. The only thing I'll disagree with Andy on and Ryan, which is, I feel like maybe you guys were veered a certain way when you watch Creed because, first of all, we're all in our 40s, and so we're big Stallone fans. I actually I bought into the Creed lore, and I was just as interested in Michael B. Jordan and the girlfriend, forget the actress that plays her.
Tessa Thompson.
The hearing impairment.
Bianca.
And even Miss Huxtable as
Felicia Rashad.
All right. Well, I actually really bought into it. And I thought Stallone did a great job. Listening to everybody's thoughts, I'm going to just give you quickly my pick. And I'm not on the esteemed panel, but I'd love to hear your feedback. For me, it was Copland because it was such a departure from what I knew from Sylvester Stallone. It's the one movie that I think he's a thespian. He's a real actor in this movie. He's mixing it up with some of the best. If he's not in the prime, he's right on the cusp. He's not too old yet. And the weight gain and the character was such a departure from this iconic 80s action star that was very wooden, very broad, over-the-top performances. It's a quiet movie. I mean, there's action, obviously, but his performance is quiet. There's no the guns flying everywhere. And that final scene with the gun and the hearing, and he invokes sympathy. He's a guy, again, similar to Rocky. He's never reached his true potential. He's had an injury. He's always on the outside looking into the cool kids, the cops in New York City. He's had his back pushed up against the wall where he has to finally act. He's ignored all this nonsense for years. I think both you guys made a great case for your choices, but pure acting performance, Copland it kept on sticking in my head for this category. And I'm just curious to hear you guys' thoughts on my pick.
Between the three of us, if you ask anybody, I think we have covered the three best Stallone acting performances between the three of us.
Yeah, I'm glad there was a voice that did voice Copland, or else we would just have a lot of angry listeners. So everyone's been placated at this point, I think.
There's nothing that Evan said that is not true. The only thing, and I know because I've known Evan a long time, and I think we saw that together during the summer. And I remember you loving it more than I did. I didn't think it was a perfectly made movie. At the same time, the acting was what made it good.
And I don't disagree with you, but the category per se is acting performance. So I wasn't too worried about the overall. The movie, I think, suffers a little bit from too many stars. It's like everybody took minimum wage and kind of got jammed into the movie, and there's all these characters and side characters.
Because we expected sort of that kind of thing from Stallone. We had heard about it. We had heard it was a departure. It was it wasn't that surprising to me that he was good, because I've always thought he was a good actor.
Had you ever seen it prior to that?
No,
because prior to
you're
that,
absolutely right.
I mean, he tried the comedy thing. You know, he's gained a little weight and kind of got out of that glamorous look, so to speak. But that was just a true departure. And there's your grudge match right there, because Stallone and De Niro are still somewhat in their primes. And that scene where they're mixing it up, it's intoxicating, and I'm not overstating it. I could watch that, maybe not the movie, but I could watch some of those scenes over and over again and truly enjoy it. I mean, he really dressed himself down and took him out of what was comfortable, and I thought the results were enjoyable, refreshing.
Yeah, very.
Stallone.
Just watching him in Creed, hanging on every word, and even the deleted scenes that are out there that are criminally unseen.
It's similar to what you said about Creed, which I really enjoyed, you know, the whole sort of cancer storyline. And he took himself in. Here was Rocky, who was this pillar of strength and action. And he's like an old guy relying on a young kid to get to his stool and chair. And I bought into it. It felt organic. It felt real to me.
And how many ways could they have gone wrong? You know,
it didn't feel like a cheap plot ploy to get my sympathy. Like, it really felt true to the Rocky lore, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. And I agree, I felt like he deserved an Academy Award, or for that. I mean, he did a great job, past the prime of his career.
Yeah, there's one scene in there, the scene where the doctor is explaining how he can fight, and he breaks down. His acting there was just sublime.
Let me toss it to Ryan. Thoughts overall, Ryan, and everybody's picks, and just
I don't want
you're done.
Just you guys had said everything that I think a lot of people were thinking. It's certainly what I'm thinking regarding your picks and the reasons. They're all. I can't argue with anything you're saying. I think the biggest difference, and you touched on it regarding Copland, it's not a great film in some parts. It's great acting performances, and it's a little bit discombobulated, a little bit of a rushed film. It's a film that requires multiple viewing to figure out what's going on, because I was very confused when I saw it the first time. I really was, and I'm not a dumb guy. And I was like, who's who? Who's this dead cop? Who is he to these people? It's a film that I think we talked about in our review of it that deserved almost like a 6-part miniseries on HBO.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff in it, but it could have been fleshed out, and they just didn't have time for it. So they packed a lot. There's a lot packed in, but everything that's packed in is good. All the acting is good. The biggest problem I have with Copland now, looking at it back 23 years later, I feel like the Robert De Niro character talking to Stallone's character by saying, "Stallone, you blew it. You blew it. You had a chance to keep doing these kind of movies, but you blew it." I'm a huge Sly fan, but I feel like
Do you feel he was almost disrespected in the movie?
No, I feel like what I mean by this is that it took him to Creed to investigate this kind of acting again.
Okay.
I think Sly, and I love him, and I'm not in his head, but I wonder, like any of us, we're all human, right? He's comfortable doing action films. He's comfortable holding a weapon and punching on screen and doing stunts like The Expendables and Bullet to the Head since then, and these other films like Escape Plan. This is his comfort zone. And maybe he's like on the beach scene in Rocky III, talking to his agent, for the first time in life, I'm afraid. Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he's kind of afraid to do these roles. And people can say, well, Ryan, they're not offering it to him. There's got to be some independent filmmaker out there who would just, cream their pants if they found that Sly's looking for a film where it's like, I don't want to make any money. I just want to do a film for $300 a week, whatever the actor's pay is, and I'll go in your film. There's probably scripts falling out of his mailbox daily. I understand people might argue in his camp saying, well, no one's offered him anything. I'm like, I think maybe he's just not comfortable. He's a little bit, maybe it does challenge him. Now, he when he puts his heart and soul into it, like Creed 2, Copland, he does a great job at it, but maybe it's hard. Maybe it's not something he likes to do, to tap into that real kind of acting that he can do. He just doesn't do it enough. So this is me as a Sly fan saying, it's too late. and these prime years are gone, and it sucks that he didn't tap that well more often. He had from 1990. So from 97 to 2006, there would have been 9-10 years where he could have easily 4 or 5 films where he could have been a mafia king or something, some sort of mobster, some sort of hitman or something. Like Tom Cruise has done it. Tom Cruise with that Collateral. He played a bad guy. I wish Sly played a bad guy. I wish he really played somebody who
Spy Kids.
Was. No, you know,
I know. I'm kidding.
I know, and I agree. I knew you were going to say that, but I've talked about it on my show, and I apologize to listeners who are listening to this, hearing me say this again. But as a fan, you're frustrated. It's like when an artist dies too young. Even though Sly's still alive, you can't go back in time. Those years between the age of 45 and 60, which is really kind of a grizzled, cool years for actors, for male actors,
right?
You kind of blew it.
Maybe if I said that. In thinking about this category, it was pretty close, but a couple of one other performance that came into my mind for it. Would you think I was nuts if I said First Blood?
No, and I considered it, and I kind of steered away from, I hate to say the obvious choices, but no, First Blood was an amazing nonverbal performance, which is actually a lot harder than you would think. You think
I
you're
agree.
Just walking around, and no, his emotive in his face and his stoicism that he had, and it's an incredible. Next to Rocky, I would say Rocky 1, First Blood, Creed 1. There you go. Those are, and then Copland would be his top 4 performances. So I think there's people screaming at the screen who are First Blood fanatics who are saying, "Please acknowledge that." So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I acknowledge the fourth Rambo also.
The great thing about debate is people will listen to this, hopefully, and spur on more debate. All right,
Absolutely.
Let's move on. This is the big one. We'll go to Mr. Ryan Rebalkin first. The Over the Top, our final award, the Over the Top Award for Best Stallone Movie. Excited to hear both your choices. Mr. Rebalkin, the floor is yours. Over the Top, Best Stallone.
Okay. I preface this with just saying, obviously, it goes without saying it's Rocky. Now, pretend Rocky doesn't exist. That's where I'm going to go with my pick now. For me, it's Rocky's everything. It has everything. It makes you cry every time. It's a perfect film. It's a perfect film. It's a perfect film. I'll go to my grave saying it's a perfect film. And Sly happens to be in it, and he does an amazing job in it. However, when it comes to Sylvester Stallone, the action star, the adventurer, or whatever you want to call it, when it comes to popcorn fare, and what he's known for outside of the Rocky films, he's a popcorn film action star in the twilight of his days, and he pumped something out in the early 90s that encapsulated good acting, good script. So this is the best movie now. Incredible cast, incredible villain, one that almost made the villain role. And that is Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger.
Hot take.
Wait, hold on.
Well, thanks for your directing. Ryan, go ahead. I'll listen to him.
Aren't I allowed to play the Cliffhanger theme that I have all queued up?
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't know that because you don't.
We met in a production meeting, and I told you I was doing this.
I'm really going to mute your mic. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, please. Let me hear.
To be a Sylvester Stallone fan, you're outside of the Rocky films. You're kind of an action fan. You like action movies. You like the adrenaline, the masculinity that's on screen, and that's what Sylvester Stallone does. Cliffhanger, yes, it has some aged special effects because of his day, but they did a lot of practical effects that have not been that badly aged. Incredible supporting cast, violent movie, brutal, bloody, a good, nice, hard R, rated R action movie, which I just miss nowadays with a lot of these pretty boy action films. I kind of missed those old days of just blood and guts and bashed heads. And this movie had it all. And yeah, incredible stunts. Great bad guy played by
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
That was close for my best villain.
Mine too, I agree, but I thought I would just save it for this film. What made it so as a film overall? This is what makes this film his best. Action, fun, popcorn, and kind of the last great one that he did in the theaters before his career, for whatever reason, in the mid-90s to the early 2000s, went down the toilet as far as box office draw and getting scripts other than Copland. So this was his last great popcorn flick.
And it's no coincidence that he was the screenwriter. I think he wrote with somebody else, but I think he wrote it. And Cliffhanger is an awesome movie. I know Evan thinks so because we actually saw that one together too over the summer.
I actually just watched it a couple of days ago. It was on, I forget what streaming service, and I enjoyed it. Here's my one question. Was Cliffhanger, again, somewhat of a comeback film to the action genre, or was it right in his wheelhouse? That was the only thing when I watched it. I want to say when we went and saw it, he had been out of the limelight or maybe had some stinkers, maybe Judge Dredd and some of that deal.
No, I think Judge Dredd was after Cliffhanger.
Right.
I think he was coming off Oscar.
I'm asking our esteemed judge, Mr. Rebalkin. Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Who runs the Sylvester Stallone fan podcast. Thank you.
You're absolutely right, because his last big successful film in the theater was Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell in 1989. And in 1990, he had the unfortunate Rocky V, which we know all about. Then he tried his hand at comedy with the 1991 Oscar, the 1992 Stopper, My Mom Will Shoot. So at this point, his Rocky film failed at the box office. His 2 comedy attempts failed at the box office. And he made it known during interviews during those films, like, oh, I'm going to, try something different. I'm going to do comedies, da-da-da. And oof, his agent's like, dude, okay, we appreciate you trying to go out there and do that, but we ain't making any money. So you better find something. And Cliffhanger was that thing. It was like, people were like, finally a smart action film. So it wasn't just an action film, but it was a smart action film. And then he sort of followed up with sort of a smart one. Not a bad one. I actually kind of have a special love for the Specialist. And then Judge Dredd came out after that. And then we went into the dredge of the 2000s. But okay.
I think rewatching it, the one thing when listening to Ryan, it's a hard R. I mean, there are definitely some bloody scenes, the plane, the shooting, Leon getting the stalactites right in the chest cavity. So there's definitely some hard action there. All right, let me throw it to my partner in crime, Andrew Gruthius. Certainly can give us further thoughts on Cliffhanger. And then Andrew, your choice, Over the Top, best Stallone movie.
Well, first, let me talk about Cliffhanger briefly. Everything you said was, you just said I could talk about it.
Yeah, I kind of didn't mean it, but go ahead. I'm joking.
Think about the actors in that movie. I mean, what a cast of really solid, character actors. Michael Rooker, Ralph.
Who's
Waite.
the white guy with the mustache who plays an FBI agent in every movie?
Rex Lynn. He's great. Okay. He's a really solid character actor. Yeah. And Lithgow, definitely. Even the guy, I forgot his name, but the guy who the Australian, he's like, I was a good striker. What a scene that was, man.
Your cheesy villains, which you just love. It had the great kind of die-hard type of villains, yeah.
Yeah, and it's no surprise that the director of Cliffhanger was Rennie Harlan, the director of Die Hard 2.
Yes.
But that same guy also directed Driven, though.
Yeah.
But
Cliffhanger was lifted from Die Hard 2. No.
In a way.
Clearly. Clearly. Go ahead, Andrew.
But my pick, I'm not separating the categories. So, of course, my pick is the original and best Rocky. It's just, there's nothing we really haven't said. We've been coming back to Rocky the whole time. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. Best picture, but even without that, it's just the story behind it. There's really not much to say. Rocky is Rocky. It's one of the greatest. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's in my top 5.
Oh yeah. No, I'm glad I didn't want to glaze over it. It's only because I do a whole podcast on the Rocky franchise that it's it goes without saying if it's not my favorite film of all time, it's Stallone's best film, absolutely. And to say otherwise, you're just kind of like pandering to a hot take crowd. But that's why I wanted to preface, like, besides Rocky, the Sylvester Stallone film, But so I'm glad you just said it as it should be said, that Rocky is the greatest Sylvester Stallone film. Agreed.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know why. I agree, Rocky. But I try to, and sometimes this is where I argue with Groo, because I try to look at it now, today. If I want to put on a quintessential Stallone movie, I surprised myself, but I kept on coming back to Rocky Balboa today. I think that's a great reflection of maybe an older Stallone. I'm not arguing Rocky at all. But I think for me, I was really so pleasantly surprised. A small film, almost an independent movie feel to it. Even the training montage, it seemed realistic. He's got aches, he's got pains. He can't even do half the stuff he used to do. And I was just so pleasantly surprised with where they took the story. I was so happy that they were able to, I guess, in a sense, wrap it up. Obviously, we have the Creed. I was just so pleased with the job Stallone did. And even the ending was so touching. With the chair in the cemetery and sort of disappears along the way. Just a great way to do it. I'm not going to argue anybody's points, but I'm just going to give a small small, non-judge nod to Rocky Balboa. Just felt like today, if I wanted to put on a Stallone movie, I probably would reach for Rocky Balboa first.
Well, Rocky Balboa...
No, you're not alone there.
Rocky Balboa, to me, is part of the reason that it's so great to me is that it could not, I don't think, it could not have been any better. I feel like he got everything right. For a movie that when they heard about it, they're like, oh, enough already. Even I, a little bit, was like, after Rocky V, I mean, where else are we going to go? Just let it die. But, hey, I'll still be first one in line. And then when I went to see it, I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe. I look at Rocky V, and I could point to 10,000 individual things that I wouldn't have done that. Like, why'd they do this that way? Why'd they do this that way? With Rocky Balboa, there's none of that. It's like, this is perfect. And the same thing with Rocky. If you look at that, watch it with the subtitles. Do you guys ever do that? Movies that I've seen that I'm rewatching, I'll put the subtitles on. It is an incredible script from point A to point B to point C, like establishing who, by the time the story starts, we know everybody. We know exactly who Adrian is, exactly who Paulie is, exactly who Apollo is, even Apollo's trainer Duke and Mickey and Rocky. We know them all. We've lived with them for a half hour already. Then he gets the opportunity of a lifetime. And there's the whole build up to that. And then that third act is exactly what it's supposed to be. It is such an incredible screenplay, which I think did the screenplay win the Academy Award?
Yes, it was editing, directing, and screenplay.
Yeah. So, and rightly so. What you say about Rocky Balboa is spot on.
Oh, sorry. That was me, foggy brain. So it was nominated. So it won picture, editing, director.
It didn't win. Stallone didn't win the award for screenplay, huh?
No. Okay. So he officially he doesn't have an Oscar. If you're a producer, you get an Oscar. They invited him up on stage to accept the Oscar, with the producers. As you guys know, the producers get the Oscars for Best Picture.
Winkler and Chardoff. Yeah. So what was that Oscar that he gave? That he gave to himself? Remember that little Easter egg from the Rocky V DVD when Rocky meets Stallone? Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I have. Yeah, yes.
He gives him an Oscar. Oh, remember the end of that? Evan, you've never seen that?
No, we discussed for 2 hours.
I'm just asking a question.
I'm hungry, and he wants to get into an Easter egg on Rocky V.
It was filmed for a TV special that was aired before the movie came out, and it's a fictional meeting between Sylvester Stallone and Rocky in Stallone's art studio. You know,
guess what's going on now? We got 35. They're all getting out of their seats and they're leaving before we have the band close us out.
Ryan, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do. I've seen it. I do.
Thank you. So it exists.
Yes,
but yeah, he gives him an Oscar. So I want to know what that Oscar is.
I think it was just a joke. Yeah, he's never won an Oscar. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh my God! I will say this about Rocky. When I watched it back, I think the subtitles. That's a good thing. I was struck by how sad of a movie it is. I mean, it's just really the first 3 acts. The final act, you see some redemption. But overall, when I watched it back again, it's pretty bleak. I mean, nothing goes well for Rocky. He just hasn't gotten a break ever. He just gets crapped on by everybody. And then he meets Adrian, and I feel like he gets butt kissed, and slowly the wheels start to turn in his favor. But I remember watching it going, wow, this is different when I was a kid. I mean, the kid, I was motivated. Here, I'm finding myself really kind of sad, Rocky.
That's because Rocky, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Ryan, but Rocky in the beginning was a loser. And he was okay with that. They even say it. The bartender, Andy's like, hey, you're not happy with your life? Fine, go ahead. But Rocky was a bum. He had no interest in fighting for the title. He was fine with his lot in life. Then he meets Adrian. Then he starts, and all of a sudden he sees how much more he can be. Then he gets the shot at the big time. He was a ham and egger, like he even said, and he was okay with that. And that's what makes it even more sad in a lot of ways. So you're absolutely right, Evan. It really is sort of tragedy turned to triumph.
Well, that is it for the Stallonies. I want to thank from the Worst of the Best podcast and the Sylvester Stallone fan podcast. We enjoy your podcast. We enjoy having you on, Ryan. Enjoy being on with you. And so we thank you very much. We hope that you, Ryan, you enjoyed the Stallonies.
I did. It was fun.
Hopefully we'll bring it back again for another actor or actress themed.
The Arnies.
It's in the family.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. We had a different one, but
I think the Arnie's would be a fun one too.
You better trademark that, Ryan. We may take it. So, all right, Groo, appreciate it. We'll be on again next week with our regular podcast. We get everybody enticed for our next episode. But that is it for the Stallone Awards. Groo, appreciate it. And any final thoughts? All right, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week from the Stallonies. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.